What's going on, guys? This is your channel TFD coming back with another video. But let's talk about something real. Caitlin Clark, yeah, she's frustrated. Just take a look at this clip right here. Now, I agree with the post I saw earlier. She's clearly frustrated. But here's the thing. She's doing what a good teammate does. She's keeping it respectful. She's not going to throw anyone under the bus, especially not her coach. And I get that. I respect it. But if you really watch this clip and listen closely, you'll hear it. She's not just being diplomatic. She's biting her tongue. I was going to say, I don't believe a word she's saying. But that's not entirely true. There's one part where she speaks the truth. But even then, she says it in a way that protects the system, the coaching, the scheme, all of it. So let's break this down. Let's talk about what this means, not just for Caitlin, but for the Indiana Fever as a whole. We're going to talk about Stephanie White. We're going to rewind back to Christy Sides and last season. And we're going to ask some real questions about where this team is headed. Because if the Fever don't figure this out soon, this whole thing might blow up. Let's get into it.
Off, not as demanding when she's being hounded 94 feet, and to try to get her some high percentage looks off the ball as much as with the ball in her hand.
Off you with Harry kind of running point and some actions and you playing off the ball. Just how do you think that will help when you reintegrate onto the court?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be nice probably not to have to bring the ball up against pressure 94 feet, but like I said, that's what I'm best at, so we're still going to do a lot of that. It's, I think, finding a balance and finding the ways to give the defense different looks, and me becoming a better screener and being a good screener and coming off of screens and screening for Kels and all that different type of stuff. That's a whole nother layer of things that the other team has to prepare for. So like I said, I feel like it makes us less predictable, and I mean, you're still going to see a lot of the same things that we do, but at times move us off the ball, and especially out of timeouts and drops, maybe not so much our live flow and our live play. I think we'll be solid.
Given that you never
Steph has talked about.
Wow. Just wow. You've all seen Caitlin Clark talk basketball before, right? So let me ask you straight up, do you believe any of what she's saying in this clip? Because I don't. Not for 1 second. This doesn't look like a player who believes in the system. This doesn't sound like someone who's bought into what the coach is trying to run. What I see is someone being polite, checking all the boxes, saying what she has to say, but deep down, it's all frustration. She's saying things like, "Oh, it makes us more unpredictable, and I just can't." Come on. Unpredictable? This system isn't unpredictable, it's unproductive. And that's the problem. And we've said this before. Stephanie White, listen, I get it. She's experienced, she's respected, but she is stopping her team's best weapon. She is single-handedly making the job easier for every other defense in this league. Why? Because she's benching the very thing every team fears, Caitlin Clark. She's neutralizing her own superstar. She's doing the other team's job for them, before they even step on the court. So yeah, sorry Caitlin, but no, nobody's preparing for your motion sets or force balance. They're not scared. They're celebrating. They're thrilled. They don't have to worry about you lighting it up from the logo. That old school WNBA offense. It makes it easier for the opponent. It puts everyone on a level playing field, and I'll tell you this, the Fever just made themselves less dangerous by design. And let's be honest, this is the kind of clip other coaches are sending around the locker room. It's a gift. The blueprint. It shows exactly how not to use a generational talent. It is absolutely insane that we went from Christy Sides to this, and somehow it got worse. Say what you want, but the Fever were more exciting, more dangerous, and honestly more fun last year, with less talent. How does that even happen? Alright, let's be real here. Do y'all realize that Christy Sides actually got more out of last year's roster than Stephanie White is getting right now, with a way better roster? And I already know what some people are going to say. Oh, well, it wasn't Christy Sides. Caitlin Clark just took over after the All-Star break. Stop it. Look, I'm not sitting here trying to crown Christy Sides as some elite head coach. I'm really not. Honestly, from what we've seen, she'd be an incredible assistant coach, and I think she was just doing that for Team Canada, right? That might actually be her sweet spot. But the facts are the facts. She got more out of less. That 2023 Fever squad was way less talented, and they still looked more cohesive than what we're watching now. And here's the thing, even if Caitlin Clark was starting to just play her own game and do what she needed to do to help the team, Christy Sides had to recognize that. She had to be smart enough to step back and say, you know what? Let me hand her the keys. Because she could have stuck to her guns. She could have said, nope, Erica Wheeler starts. Christy Wallace plays major minutes. Katie Lou's staying in there. We're running it my way. But she didn't. Let's not forget, Sides made real adjustments. We were all frustrated at first, right? But it wasn't just Cece ignoring her coach. Christy Sides changed things. Katie Lou went to the bench. Christy Wallace went from starter to straight up not playing. Lexi Hull got real minutes. Damaris Dandas came in and made an impact. And even with that, we saw players like Nalissa Smith take a step back in minutes when necessary. The rotation changed. The philosophy changed. And all of it was moving in the right direction. So no, it wasn't just after the All-Star break. That's a lazy take. They started 1-8, yeah. Brutal stretch, 11 games in 20 days. Back-to-back matchups against the Liberty, the Sun. It was a gauntlet, but they went 19-12 after that. And before the All-Star break, they were already trending up. Between that 1-8 start and the Olympic break, they were 10-7. And after the break, they finished 9-5. That's real progress. Let's not rewrite history here. The shift didn't magically happen at the All-Star break. This team was already turning it around, and Christy Sides was a part of that. So when we look at the season under Stephanie White, who has more talent and somehow less rhythm, you've got to ask, what's the problem? Because something ain't right. It did not take as long for the Fever to turn things around last season as people want you to believe. That whole narrative, that they didn't figure it out until way later, that's just false. We're 19 games into a 44-game season right now. Let that sink in. We are almost halfway through. And I don't want to hear excuses. Oh, it takes time. Caitlin was hurt. They need to gel. No. Just no. Caitlin Clark has had more than enough time. And more importantly, Stephanie White has had every possible advantage. Let's break this down. Stephanie came in with a full season of footage. She saw what Christy Sides got right and what she got wrong. She already had the answers to the test. She knew what worked. She knew what didn't. And yeah, Christy Sides said some wild things. Talked about long twos, decision clocks, all that stuff. And she was resistant, no doubt. But give her some credit. She was also working with uncertainty. Caitlin was a rookie coming in from college. Sure, people thought she was going to be great, but we've seen, can't miss, players flop in every sport. NBA, NFL, whatever. You had to see how her game would actually translate to the pros. Christy didn't know what she had. Stephanie White, she knew. She didn't have to guess. She didn't have to wait and see. She saw the proof. She had the blueprint. Put the ball in Caitlin Clark's hands. Play with tempo. Run, read, and react actions. Pick and roll with Aaliyah Boston in the half court. You do that, and you're winning a whole lot of games in this league. It's not complicated. So why are we here, 19 games in, and still talking about rotations that don't make sense? Lexi Hull just said it herself after the Valkyries game. There's a million different rotations. Well, there shouldn't be. Not at this point in the season. Even with Clark missing a game or two. A good coach figures it out. A good coach doesn't force a system that goes against the strengths of their best players. This ain't rocket science. It's basketball. And when you have a generational talent like Caitlin Clark, you don't make it harder, you build around her. No more excuses. Stephanie White has completely abandoned everything that made this team successful. And I don't just mean Caitlin Clark. I mean everything that comes from Caitlin Clark. Kelsey Mitchell's rhythm, Aaliyah Boston's dominance, Lexi Hull's impact. Gone. Let me ask you this. Was there a single pick and roll between Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston in that Valkyries game? If there was one, let me know, I'll own it. But I sure didn't see it. Instead, what did we get? Caitlin Clark back from injury, and Stephanie White starts Ari McDonald, benches Lexi Hull, slides Caitlin to a forward position, and somehow gives Ari more minutes than she got when Clark was out. Ari, by the way, went 1-4, 7 from 3. She's shooting 22% from deep this year and still led the team in three-point attempts. Make that make sense. This is insanity. And for those still defending Stephanie White, I get it, you're holding out hope. But let me tell you something. In any other professional league, when you bring in a generational player, make big off-season moves and expect a title push, by this point, the coach would be under fire. Loud fire, media pressure, fan outrage, demands for change. But not here. Not yet. And it's baffling. Last year, we were roasting Christy's sides for the rotations. Katie Lou playing too much, Christy Wallace starting, Lexi Hall getting DNPs. But you know what? At least they figured it out. At least they adjusted. The team got out of the way and let Aitlin cook, and they won games. They entertained. They were electric. This year, they're boring. Straight up boring. They're 9 to 10, running a system that doesn't fit their star, doesn't excite fans, and just flat out doesn't work. This isn't Aitlin Clark basketball. This is the Stephanie White system. And it's a bad one. Look, the front office better wake up. Because if they keep forcing Aitlin Clark to be a floor spacer, setting screens, running around off-ball, getting pounded every possession, they're going to ruin the best thing that's happened to the WNBA in decades. You've got one of the best playmakers on the planet. A rookie who made first team All-WNBA last year, who averaged 23 and 10 after the Olympic break. You don't stick her in the corner and hope Ari McDonald saves the day. That's coaching malpractice. And speaking of transition, Aitlin said it herself earlier this season, we need to do a better job of getting me the ball in transition. That's when I'm at my best. But what does Stephanie White keep pushing? Off-ball, off-ball, off-ball. It's just dumb. Sorry. No sugarcoating. It's dumb. You don't take a generational floor general and reduce her to a floor spacer. That's not coaching. That's sabotage. And if Aitlin Clark is still respecting Stephanie White because of the talk, because of the pitch and the promises, then that respect has to change. It's time for a conversation behind closed doors. Either we do this my way and win, or I'm gone. Because your way isn't working. Bottom line, the blueprint is right there. We've seen it work. Clark on the ball. Boston as the pick-and-roll anchor. Spacing shooters like Lexi and Sophie. Letting Kelsey Mitchell thrive off the gravity Aitlin creates. But Stephanie White refuses to use it. So yeah, let her cook. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you next time.